When I was very young and I was going through abuse, I was raped at the age of 7. Any child who wishes to scream but is not able to scream. So you scream within. I did get brutally raped and there was physical violence as well. And I was getting gang raped, not raped. And it was a regular occurrence. I used to get raped every fortnight, like every 15 days, every 20 days. Every time I got these feelings, when I got a nightfall or an erection, it was always men who came in my dreams. Each one of us should not run away from our pains and sorrows. We should rather embrace it. We should not shy from remembrance of bad memories, but rather revel in the thought that those bad memories brought something really beautiful too. When he looked at me, eyes welled up, looked at me but yet not able to meet his eyes to mine. And he said, I was one of the people who raped you.
Oh.
And he said,
before we begin, I want to address the sensitive nature of the content in this episode. My guest will be sharing deeply personal experiences related to sexual assault. It might be disturbing for some people, so watch it at your own discretion. It is raw and authentic, but it has an important message. Let's go.
You were raped from the age of 7 till the age of 18.
that's right.
What was going through your mind while that was happening?
When a child gets raped, it's not a rape on the child's body, it's a rape on the child's mind. It's not about lust, it's about feeling disempowered. Disempowered, it's not about the words that are spoken, but the words that get buried inside you, that echo inside you. So there was a scream inside of me where I was screaming, but externally there was this Zen-like quietness. People would assume that because I got very brutally raped, I didn't get raped in terms of there's no degree of rape per se. Rape is rape, but I did get brutally raped and there was physical violence as well. I used to get beaten. All sorts of things used to get pushed inside my anus. I used to be bleeding, and this happened when I was 7 years of age. And what is not stopped at the right age, stopped, and it's not the responsibility of the child to stop, will give more courage to the abuser to do more. So he started with, I remember he was just giving me a bath for the first time. And it's okay in the Indian context that uncles would give bath to their nephews or nieces also, till the niece becomes, starts getting her periods. So he was giving me a bath and it was not questioned by anybody. And while giving me a bath, there was the first time when he completely removed all his clothes. And I didn't think it was wrong or right. I didn't know wrong from right at that age. I was just stunned, or rather curious, and I was laughing. And around that time, he and I were not alone at home. There was my aunt at home as well. Around that time, my aunt said, he was asking me to give him a blowjob. And that was the time when my aunt said, and this was inside the bathroom. My aunt didn't know what was happening. And he was trying to, slowly push my head towards his penis. And I was trying to resist it, not because I knew it was rape or it was right or wrong, because I was like, okay, people pee from there. I don't want to put that in my mouth. Mm-hmm. And I just found it odd that somebody was asking me to do something like that. And around that time, when this hustle was happening, when this jostle between us, where we were trying to, where he was trying to push me down towards his penis, and when my aunt was outside, and I wanted to I didn't want to scream or complain. I wanted to say, see, aunt, see, auntie, what is he trying to do? Ha ha ha. I was trying to say that in a fun way. But around that time, when I was going to speak, my uncle knew that I was going to say something. He shut my mouth. And exactly at that time, my aunt uh, shut the door and she was going out to the market, and I could hear her say, I'm just going to be back in like half an hour, 1 hour, something. I don't remember. I said, I'll just be back I'm going to the shop. I'll be back in a while. So she left. And I could hear a thud of the door closing. And this moment where he was trying to overpower me and me wanting to scream and my aunt closing the door gave him a sort of energy, because it all happens in that split second, and gave him the thought that okay, possibly he could do it. And I still think, what if my aunt didn't go out that day? What if my aunt knocked and said, why were you taking so much time in the bath? What if I screamed? What if I told my aunt that day? What would have changed, right? So, but at that moment, he got me out. He dried me. But before that, he performed oral sex on me, as in he got me to perform oral sex on him. He came in my mouth. He peed in my mouth, and I didn't feel any taste or anything because I was just stunned of what was happening. He got me out, he toweled me dry, put me on the dining table, tilted me, and had anal sex with me. I was just 7 years of age. And when I was shivering, he kept the knife below my neck and said that if you tell this to anybody, I'm going to have you killed. I'm going to get everyone else killed. And I didn't know as a child how to react, but I just knew that I cannot reveal this. So in a while, my aunt returned, and I just developed this sense of living in two parallel worlds. The moment my aunt, before that, I was like scared, shivering. The moment my aunt came, I just got up and I started walking. I acted as if what happened just 2 seconds before she walked in didn't happen at all. So my memory had started living in two worlds: the world that I was sexually abused and the world I was not. And these two worlds were like two parallel lines which never met each other till I was 15, 16 or something. I wouldn't. So every time after that, when my uncle would call me, I would simply, go. And the moment I knew he and I were alone, I would remove all my clothes and I would lie down. I would not get an erection. I would get beaten because I never got an erection because I was not enjoying the act. I would bleed from my anus many a times, but I would not feel pain when that's happening. I would feel pain after I go to school and I sit in a wooden bench. But I wouldn't be able to explain to people what makes it pain. So I think that was there. And by the age of 11 or something, he started getting friends home. I used to get gang raped. So all this while, Rodrigo, I used to live in these two parallel worlds: the world that I was sexually abused and the world that I was not sexually abused. And these two worlds were not meeting. So it's very difficult to explain to people that, what happens with children at a young age impacts their entire life sometimes. And children have this ability to even omit things from their memory. And that's not because they want to do it. It's a survival instinct that, many a times when a deer is hunted, you'll see the deer paralyzing completely and lying to the ground. Not because it can't run away. Sometimes deers and giraffes are stronger than lions. It's because that's the only way that they could numb the pain, is completely forgetting where they are. So that's what happens with children. I completely forgot. But I was also growing as a child, right? So when I was like 11, 12 is when you start getting an erection, you have sperms, that start forming, and I used to get night falls because I never knew the idea of masturbation. So I used to have, you know, involuntary erections most of the time. I used to have a night fall. And I think what bothered me around that time was that every time I got these feelings when I got a night fall or an erection, it was always men who came in my dreams. And after I used to get a very disgusted feeling after I came, because every time I saw sperm, it reminded me that I thought of men, and I hated myself for that. I don't know why I was hating myself for that, but I hated myself for that because somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered that I was abused by a man. Though I didn't remember it, it had left traces of it. So I was abused by a man, but I was dreaming of men. So when I started growing a little is when the problem became more acute. When I was around 14, 15, everyone in my class had girlfriends. And I was like, okay, I also need to have a girlfriend. I even wrote a stupid love letter while I was in school to this friend of mine, who's a very good friend of mine now. Her name is Chitra. And I had written Chitra her love letter. And I was reprimanded because she went and complained. She doesn't, apparently when I met her now and I told her, she doesn't even remember that I had written her a love letter. The idea, because she used to come first in the class and she was a wonderful Bharatanatyam dancer and she was very good with singing, elocution and everything. And she was like a role model for me, continues to be. And I thought that, okay, I should write a love letter to her because I wanted to be like her. And I didn't want to be with her. I wanted to be like her, right? So I think, but I knew that I was very different from that age, that I don't feel the same way. Like I used to go to a Boy Scouts camp sometimes, and I used to see that boys are like undressing themselves and changing themselves, often playing with each other. Like they'll slap each other's butts and put pens below. When people are sitting down, they'll put pens. So I never related to that. Also because when these things were done to me, I used to get very scared. Like for instance, when people put a pen below my this thing, probably I'm bleeding and I'm experiencing pain. But over a period of time, you can't run away from life. You can't run away from these memories that lodge itself in one corner of your mind. They will come back to you. And it came back to me when I was getting older. And I started remembering that I was getting raped too. And that's when the challenge was, because I was incredibly feminine, not because I wanted to be woman-like, but I was incredibly scared to express anything and everything. Not that women are scared, but women are forced to be scared about many things in life. And I used to take very precarious steps for everything, and I used to get bullied in school quite often. And I used to cry quite openly, and people used to say, why are you crying like a baby? Or crying like a girl child. And it bothered me, but I couldn't say anything. I didn't have very close friends. So I think I had a troubled childhood, but I had my moments of joy too. And it was in the age of 18 when my uncle, not my abuser uncle, Indian families are huge, and another uncle of mine got him a dog. And I was very scared. I was fond of animals, but very scared of them as well. The dog took to me, and his name was Jimmy. And he used to love me so much, and it was so unconditional. And I had this thing about speaking to animals and nature right from childhood, but I never had a dog who was this close to me. And I remember very closely, this was the time when my worlds were meeting too, when my abused life, when I was getting abused and I was not getting abused. My mind was also my mind was awake when I was getting abused, right? So it wasn't closed like it was before. And I was getting gang raped, not raped. And it was a regular occurrence. I used to get raped every fortnight, like every 15 days, every 20 days. He used to be close to my building, and I used to go and I used to go to his house, and it used to happen, and that frequently. I used to get gang raped. So I used to hate the taste of blood, because I remember this one time when I was anally penetrated by this person in this gang rape scene, and then he asked me to lick his penis, and it was my own blood that I was licking off his penis. So it was that. So I used to remember these small instances which used to disgust me. I'm able to speak about it now, but it used to disgust. But I had no one to speak to. The only person I spoke to about this was my dog. I used to put my head between Jimmy's paws and I used to cry. And every time I cried, he used to lick my tears. And that all it takes, Rodrigo, for your life to change. Somebody who could listen to you. You might not have the solutions all the time. But you don't need solutions from people. You need people to clear things for you and put it in front of you so that people could find their own solutions. You go to a counselor, what does a counselor do? Counselors are not supposed to give you solutions. Counselors are supposed to give you clarity, right? So the counselor will put all the things that you have said in front of you, like a fortune teller puts a bunch of cards in front of you. And so that you can physically see all the cards and see what it reveals and find your own solution for yourself.
Yeah.
So Jimmy was that person for me. He was not a person. He was a dog. And when humans got to know about my abuse, one of my friends did, whom I told him. And he went to the whole college and said that I was a rape victim. He didn't say I was a rape victim. He said I was sleeping with a man, with my uncle. And one day when I walked into school, went into college, I used to study in a college called Khalsa College, which is in Matunga in Bombay. When I walked into college, I could hear a whisper where one person speaks to another person. And they're saying, don't talk to him, he slept with his uncle.
Wow.
And I was like, no one knows about this.
Yeah.
It's a secret. And suddenly I remembered that, possibly I've told this friend. I remembered that I told this friend. So I went up to the friend and I told him, I said, why did you tell it to people? In fact, I didn't tell him, why did you tell it to people? I told him that, you know what, when I was speaking to you, I remember I told you this once when we were passing out from school. And I told you, I think someone else was there too and who listened to this, because you can't tell this to people. You're my friend. You're my best friend. And he said that, yes, I told it to people. What's the big deal? And my world was shattered because I lost a friend that day.
Yeah.
Not because I was abused, that people knew, but I lost a friend that day. I tried killing myself after that 3 times. Once went to the terrace and I wanted to jump from the college roof, but I got scared and I fainted and I fell down. I'm very scared of heights, so I saw that and I fainted.
Wow.
And that saved my life. The second time I consumed a whole lot of tablets and sleeping pills, but I just woke up after 14 hours of sleeping, and I was dressed in white because sometimes in India we have this tradition of wearing white and sleeping. We wear white pajamas and sleep, and apparently that's also the dress you see in Hindi films when people die that they wear. So I woke up, and on that day my mother was wearing something in white, my aunt was wearing something in white in the same house, and I really thought that I've woken up to my own funeral. So I thought that I was dead and this is an out-of-body experience. But I went to my aunt and I said, what happened? Can you see me? She said, of course I can see you. What rubbish are you talking? But I really thought that I was dead at that time. So I've actually tasted death in that form. And then once, of course, I tried cutting my wrist, which has left marks in my wrist. So I tried cutting my wrist, and all 3 times I survived. And when you survive to tell your story. You know.
Oh, I'm really sorry that you had to go through that, but also thank you for
I think
sharing.
the most traumatic experience of my life, Rodrigo, is not my abuse. It's the loss of my dog.
Yeah. I'm curious to when was the first time that you tried to share it with someone that was happening?
I think I tried telling my mother, when I was 10 years old, because I was born in 79. So around that time, I tried telling my mother. I told my mother, my uncle touches me here and there. My mother said, don't go close to him. It's all right. She didn't realize, because I didn't have the words to express. Like if you were told at that age, or if your son comes and tells you that I was, this uncle keeps bothering me. You'll say, okay, don't go close to your uncle. It's okay. I'm here. Come here.
Yeah.
My mother was as simple. It was as simple a response as that. Then again, after a few years, I again tried telling my mother that I was bleeding. Because you don't remember. But there are times, it's like, has it ever happened to you, Rodrigo, that you know the entire lyrics of a song, but there are moments where you just can't remember it? Now imagine that happening to somebody about a traumatic experience. This has happened to me. There are times when I remember the whole song. There are times when I remember bits. There are times when I don't remember at all. And mostly I don't remember at all. There is one moment when I remembered, and I tried telling my mom that I'm bleeding from my anus. It was the mango season, and my mother said, it's possibly because you're eating too many mangoes.
Wow.
Because if it was not the mango season, my mother would have questioned. Because in my country, Rodrigo, we never thought that boys could get sexually abused. If I was a girl, my mother would have been careful. My mother said that at the age of 18 when I opened up to her and I told her this happened to me. She said, if you're a girl, I would have understood. I didn't know this happens with boys.
Oh.
And my mother today walks out in different places, different podiums, different television shows to tell the world that I'm the mother you should not be. And that takes courage, because everyone comes out to say that they are a hero. I come out to say that, I've fought so many things and I'm a hero. But my mother comes out to say that I'm the mother you should not be. I'm the bad example. And to say that takes more courage than to say that, I'm the good example that you need to follow. I'm the hero of the story.
And how's your relationship today with your uncle?
He's not. So at the age of 18, I spoke up. Then our family, obviously we cut ties. But there was no law against child sexual abuse in India. No law against child sexual abuse in India. People used to get tried, abusers used to get tried under the rape law, which spoke about outraging the modesty of a woman.
Oh.
So it's assuming that men have no modesty, number one. Secondly, it also assumes that the perpetrator could be only a man, which in a patriarchal world could still. And when I tried killing myself, I said that I need to speak up. And the courage I got was after speaking up for. Otherwise, I can't imagine speaking to you, looking into your eye and speaking to you today if I was the same person, because I used to look down and speak to people. I used to be scared of people. And it was only Jimmy, because Jimmy was fond of animals. I used to pick up fights with people who sell parrots, and I used to walk into a pet store, like a pet market in Bombay, and fight with them, scream at them, yell at them. So all that came. And also somebody called Maneka Gandhi, who used to be a minister. She used to come in this show called Heads and Tails, which used to come in the national television called Doordarshan. I used to watch that. Mr. Pritish Nandi used to be another person who used to produce that show. And there used to be a book called Heads and Tails. So I used to write letters to Maneka Gandhi. And she used to, and I was a young child, young as in I was 18, 19 that time. I used to write her mails saying, Maneka Auntie, can you please help me with this? And she used to respond to every mail that came. I still remember the address, A4 Maharani Bagh, New Delhi, 65. I used to write to her and she used to respond to me. So I think if there's anyone else who actually helped me come out of my depression and find a purpose in life, which was looking after animals, besides my dog, it would be that dog lover, the crazy, mad dog lover, Maneka Gandhi, who actually helped me. I might not agree to many of her views many a times. We might have agreeable dissent on a lot of issues, but that's the adult me. As a child, she helped me come to terms with what I was going through. And I've written to her countless number of times in a post box. We didn't have email that time, we used to have inland letters and post box numbers. I used to write through that. And I think my abuser today lives somewhere in Bombay. And if I had a chance, Rodrigo, I'd take him to a counselor. More than a legal system, I think there needs to be more conversations with not just rape survivors. There are enough testimonials now. After a show in Satyamev Jayate, which was a show by Amir Khan that I appeared in, even before that, shows by Barkha Dutt and Richa Anirudh, and all these great TV personalities and journalists who did the show, there is adequate awareness. So when I knew that I didn't find a person who was there with their face out there speaking about this, I knew that I had to be that person. I had to be that person so that no child or no mother or no child is looking for somebody who is like them and doesn't find that person. Because I know the fear of being the only one in the room who's different, the only one in the room who's the survivor, the only one in the room whose story is told. There needs to be, because my story is by in no way the story of so many people.
Yeah.
Right? Because for everyone, the feeling of abuse is different. But my story could be a representative of the larger stories that exist. From that pool, I'm just one amongst many. But for that one to come out with their face being shown to the entire world, without no fear, was needed. And boy, did I get hate too. I got a lot of hate. Many people didn't trust the authenticity of my story, because they will validate the authenticity of my story with a conviction of my abuser, or the fact that I filed a police complaint. I had not filed a police complaint. There was no law. The law came into existence in 12. There's a law called POCSO, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. That came after the Satyamev Jayate show. Satyamev Jayate show had just had one, because it was a mainstream show. It was a show run by a big superstar, Amir Khan, who was very committed to the cause, presented it beautifully. Barkha Dutt, a very famous journalist, she was Shai Venkatraman was the first person. So all these Richa Anirudh, so all these people had done shows.
Yeah.
So my story was not the story of so many people. So I started receiving calls from people from smaller towns. My first mail letter that I received from someone who was a fellow survivor was from someone from Varanasi.
Oh, wow.
Someone from Varanasi had written to me. Someone from so many places had written to me, had called me, spoken to me. So what I started as a what people called was courage, became an igniter of flame for so many people to find their courage, not to come and tell the world, but to tell themselves that they are survivors. I think it's the moral responsibility of everybody. If you have come out of a tunnel and you know the way out of a maze, which is a tunnel, and you came out, it's important for you to not revel in the joy of finding light, but to go back to the tunnel and to hold the torch for somebody else who's trying to find their way out of the darkness.
Wow.
I recount this beautiful yet painful incident. There was this one time when I was in Wadala station. I was wanting to get into this other train, and this person just looked at me, held me, and pulled me down. So I looked at him and smiled, and I said, and he was all tears. While I was speaking to him, he just started, he wouldn't stop crying. He couldn't hold his tears. I said, "Uncle, are you upset? Can I help you? Did something happen to you?" Then he told me a name of some child of his, and he said, "Do you remember this person?" I'm not taking the name because I don't want to victimize or make that family recognizable. I said, "Yeah, I remember this because I remember this very vividly because I was the last call dialed before that person killed themselves." So I said, "Yeah, I remember." I said, "How do you know this person?" So he said, "This person, I'm that person's father." I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Why did this? I wanted to ask you. I wanted to tell you that I know why my child killed himself." So I said, "I can't reveal because your child never wanted it to be revealed." He said that I knew that my child was gay. So I said, "Okay." I didn't respond. And he said, I've got the punishment for all my bad deeds. I lost my child." So I said, "Why do you curse yourself? You've done nothing wrong. This happened, it's an incident. I'm not asking you to put it in the past, but let it be. You don't need to blame yourself to find an answer." He looked at me and he said, "No, I have troubled several people. I've troubled you." I said, "How did you trouble me?" Then he looked at me and he named the building that I was raped.
Oh, shit.
Then I looked at him and I said, "How do you know this building?" Then he named my abuser, my uncle. I said, "How do you know him?" Because I wouldn't tell my abuser's name to anybody. So my close friends, my family, everyone who knows me personally knows who the person is, but not otherwise. So, "How do you know him?" Then he looked at me, eyes welled up, but looked at me, but yet not able to meet his eyes to mine. And he said, "I was one of the people who raped you."
Oh.
And he said, "Put me in jail." I looked at him and said, "I don't know how to react to this. It's an extraordinary situation." So I said that, "Can I meet you tomorrow?" He said, "No, put me in jail." I said, "Can I meet you tomorrow?" And he said, "Yeah." And I told him, "I'll see you tomorrow, uncle." Just out of... Then I got a train and I went to my place, and I couldn't stay the night awake and stay the night sleeping. I was all awake. I didn't know what do you do when you have faced with a situation where you don't know what to feel? No one prepares you for something like this. You only see these things in movies. right? Where people feel a sense of repentance or anger, or you come face to face with your abuser, or so he called me. He had my number, he called me. And I told him, I said, can I see you tomorrow? In a place close to the studio, actually. I met him. I met him at the station, and we came to a place near DN Nagar. I looked at him and I said, the moment I saw him, he was not able to see me. He said, "Beta, please put me in jail. Or slap me, say something against me, say something." I said, he tried going to police and saying, and his family thought that he was mad. But I just looked at him for a while, and I just kept looking at him. And then I asked him to get up. We were sitting on the railway bench. Asked him to get up. The moment he got up, I went and hugged him. And he didn't know what to do. He hugged me back. And he said, "Put me in jail." I said, "Please stop saying that." I said, "For the person that you were yesterday, I can't punish you today. We all change with time. And your repentance is the biggest gift that I could get. I don't need anything more. That's the biggest superpower that I've got." I said, "But I've got something to ask from you." I held his hand and I took him to a psychiatrist. I said, you need healing too. Speak to the psychiatrist and promise me that you'll continue speaking to him. So I took him to the psychiatrist, and they continued sessions, and the psychiatrist asked me, "Who's he? Is he your father?" So I just smiled at the psychiatrist and said, "No, he's my rapist."
Wow.
I said, and psychiatrist couldn't hear. "Therapist?" I said, "No, rapist."
Yeah.
And he lives today too, a happy life. He stopped pestering me about putting him in jail. But he did come and meet me once, and he did take me to his family, got me introduced to his other child, his wife. They had a photo of mine on one of the pedestals.
Wow.
He had told his wife that he had raped me, and that he was very sorry. And his wife and child and he greeted me with the warmest of feelings. And the most beautiful part is that he wrote me a check and refused to take it. I told him, "I don't need that. I mean, I didn't speak for this. I didn't buy your silence. I didn't speak for this." I said, what do you think we could do? I said, "Give it to an animal welfare organization." I said, "Why not for children protection?" I said, "Even when a child gets abused, you tell the world that he was treated like he or she or they were treated like an animal. So how much we have normalized treating animals badly." I said, "If you really want to give it to an animal welfare organization." There was a good amount. I remember this was around 200, 300 million. So somewhere around 2-3 crores of money that he gave off. He just gave off for the good work without his name anywhere. Gave off. And I also helped him spread it across different organizations so that he doesn't get treated like a hero and he doesn't make it, because he used to live he got so scared of facing people, due to which I'm not in touch with him now. But I hope that he's watching this. I hope that he finds all the love and all the courage to inspire more people like him to choose the path of change.
So you met one of your rapists, and you did something unbelievable, right? I mean, there was so much.
I don't think so, but yeah, but when I narrate it, it sounds so.
Yeah, so there was, I mean, I see a lot of empathy. I see a lot of love. How did you transform so much pain and anger from what happened to you into that empathy and love?
I think Newton said this many years ago. Energy can never be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. So I was just playing with physics. This is plain physics. So each one of us who are pushed also have the power, unbelievable power to push and spring up, right? Every time you have anger, you have the power to convert it into something beautiful. Why do you think, as I'm an LGBT person, I'm not gay because I was raped, I'm gay because I'm gay. As an LGBT person, why do you think so many LGBT people are very creative? It's because they transform the feeling of disgust, of not getting noticed, into creative forms, which will give them recognition, right? Why are black people, okay, especially a black person in the US, why is that general perception that they're aggressive? You know, people build this perception, not that white people are not aggressive, okay? People who say that they haven't heard Trump at all. But why are they aggressive? Because you can't push people down, and expect them to stay quiet. They will scream because they need to be screamed to be heard. Why are Dalits marching in the streets? Why are women screaming their lungs out? Why are rape survivors speaking of all genders now? Because of these feelings. I think energy can never be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. So I could either spend the rest of my life hating men or stay true to my sexuality and be real. I also hated men for a long time. I did try. But every time I got an erection, I thought of men. I even had sex with a commercial sex worker, which was a woman. But when I would come finally, it would be thinking because I thought of a man, got a wet dream because of a man.
Yeah.
So you could either live your life like a lie, and your truth could be anything. Your truth. We all have gone through pain and hardships. We all have a lot of untruths in our lives and lies that we tell ourselves.
Maybe you can share about your healing journey. How was your healing journey till today?
I think speaking up is a healing process. Speaking up not to the world, okay, not you. We all choose our own healing processes. There is no one template. There isn't the way I healed, the way I look at the incident might not be the way everyone else looks at the incident. The way I define justice might not be the way everyone else defines justice. And it's okay. There shouldn't be any pressure for us to follow each other because diversity is what makes us beautiful. And not just diversity in the way we think, also diversity in the way we seek justice, right? So my healing process was every time I spoke about my abuse, I revealed a part of myself to myself. Some people speak about abuse to themselves and not to the world. I chose to speak to the world because that was empowering. That was empowering because I was somebody who was in the shadows all the time. Now I was facing light. And I was saying that. So it was empowering for me. So we all choose our own paths. And the other thing that I realized is, we all have, for me it was abuse, okay? for my close friends, it's about losing their mother. For somebody else, um, it's about going through a breakup or a divorce. You could have different tragedies that you would define as tragedies in your life or struggles in your life. Every time you get a feeling, we often tell people, don't think about it. I would say, think about it. Give it time. Imagine that you're walking into a library where each chapter of your life is in the form of a book. Or you're walking into a library with a lot of, or you're walking into Netflix for the younger world today, and each film that you see over there is one chapter of your life story. And some of these chapters are pleasant, but some of these chapters are unpleasant. Today you're in a morose mood. You want to look at the unpleasant chapter of your life, right? So remove that, download that film, watch the film, and after you watch the film, imagine that you have shut the browser, shut the laptop, okay? Kept the laptop aside in its place, and you have walked out. Do this as an exercise. Because these are emotions that make us human too. And when you leave room for memories and anger, you also, and if you have the transformative powers, you will do something which is very genius-like, right? So I think each one of us should not run away from our pains and sorrows. We should rather embrace it. We should not shy from remembrance of bad memories, but rather revel in the thought that those bad memories brought something really beautiful too. I'll ask you a question, okay? When you get inside a dark room,
Yeah.
okay, you can't see anything. You switch on a bulb. What happens in the room?
There's the light.
There's light. But where does the darkness go? Where does it go? It goes nowhere. Once you switch off the light, the darkness comes back again. So everything that has a source, light has a source. Darkness is universal. So if you can fall in love with your darkness, how beautiful would that be? Rather than running away from darkness. Have you also seen that there are times when the room is completely dark and you got into the room, you can't see anything, but you spend 3 minutes in the room and you suddenly can see things because your cornea adjusts its focal length in a way that you're able to see things, even in that darkness. So I think our pain is one such thing. Our painful past is one such thing. So embrace it. Don't try to run away from it. The acceptance of darkness is what will give us light. And light will always need a source. Darkness is universal. It exists everywhere. I started coming out as a LGBTQ person quite early in life. When I was 24, 25 is when I started opening up to the world. Since then, I was speaking about child sex abuse, but also about LGBTQ. I was dispelling myths that you need to get raped to become LGBTQ. I mean, I know of I've spoken to several male survivors who were raped by men, but who love women. So there was no correlation per se, and in fact, they outnumbered the one who were raped by men who love men. So there was no correlation per se. So I brought in a unique perspective which probably appealed to people. Also, it made people uncomfortable, right? To even speak about these things. So I was, of course, television shows was one that recognized me. For women empowerment, I hate the word empowerment, but because I don't think women need to be empowered. I think women are empowered. Men need to get off their way so that women realize their own potential. They have a clear path to their own success. We are the ones Men are the ones who block. I'm not a man. I'm a gender fluid person. Men are the ones who block the way. So I received an award from Bharat Petroleum, which is one of the oil and refinery petroleum companies in India. I received an award for women empowerment. There were some 7 or 8 people who received that award. Then I got listed in the World Pride Power List. Guardian magazine, the British Daily, had a list of 100 most influential LGBTQI plus people in the world.
Wow.
And I was number 71 in that list and the only Indian national to be listed over there. Then what did I achieve? I have 2 films based on my life. One of the films which won a national award, called I Am, which was made by Honor, a filmmaker called Honor. And there's another film called Amen, which is made by 2 of my bestest of friends, Ranadeep and Judajit, which won a lot of international accolades. There's a book based on my life written by one of my ex-boss called Payal. The book is called The Bad Touch. Then there is several things. Then recently I got recognized then I started working with Axis Bank. I work with Axis Bank. I got recognized, rather the bank got recognized for a lot of work that it had done. So a lot of things. I'm also part of a children's book which features 53 queer heroes of the world. A children's book with Freddie Mercury and other people, and my name is there, so it's a big honor. Ellen DeGeneres, Portia, all of them with my name over there as well. So I've won a lot of these things, and I feel good, because why not? I mean, why should we fake modesty? There are times when the work that I do, listening to calls, listening to survivors, is so grim.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're battling with your own community, and a bit of appreciation here and there. I don't live for those appreciations, but when it comes, it feels good, and it's okay to say that yes, I've achieved and been recognized for that. I've also once, very famously, my first international television interview was in CNN, when I had spoken when the Mumbai terror, when the Taj Mahal was attacked and the CST station was attacked and Oberoi Hotel was attacked, Trident and Oberoi was attacked, and people were unable to reach people over there. I had I started a blog called Mumbai Terror Helpline, and I put my number, mobile number, on that blog, asking people to call me up, and I in turn would speak to journalists, find out about the whereabouts of people who are there, and convey it to the people who were inquiring about them. So that won me a lot of attention as well. In fact, I was only one of the many people who were doing it. There were other people from blogs like India Help who had done far more work than what I did, because I was one person there. There was a whole battalion of people who were doing it. But I got recognized for that. So I think we all can find ways of doing things for things that we believe in.
Yeah.
We live in a land or in a world of abundance. There are different kinds. You will always find your type. Okay. But the challenge for you should be to not find your type, to find another who is different, and to love that another with the same love that you would have felt for someone who's like you.
Yeah.
That makes us special as human beings.
Yeah. And like, so for people who are watching us that goes to struggles, whatever struggles it is, like trauma, what are the 3 things that they can do in order to transform whatever it's their struggles into power?
Acceptance. When many a times acceptance and acknowledgement is the first step all the time. Accept that you're struggling. You don't need to be a superhero. You don't need to say that, you know what, I'm a hero, I can solve this. You don't need to get there. Accept. Even in moments of weakness, accept that you're weak. Okay? That acceptance itself and that acknowledgement itself is a superpower. Then listen. Listen to yourself. Listen to people like you. Okay? Listen to people. Seek. It doesn't need to be the same struggle as yours. So listen to people like you. And the third thing that I would say is have that, build in the energy within yourself that everything that you have listened to could become a part of your story that you would want to tell people without revealing their names. And in telling that to other people, because you listened because someone told you, in telling that to other people, you will realize the real hero within you.
Wow. Whew. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
We are coming to the end. What is, I have just two more questions. What is the one message that you want people to get out of this conversation?
We are all the stories that we tell ourselves. If we change the story that we tell ourselves, the outcomes would also change. And the only thing that kept me going was the stories that I kept telling myself. The stories, not what I told the world. If I told myself that I was weak, I would turn weak. Tell yourself a lie so many times that you're strong, that your lie becomes the gospel truth of your life. So say positive lies to yourself. Because at that moment, when you're the weakest, it will seem like a lie.
Yeah, so be careful with the stories that you tell yourself. And you have the power to change whatever you go through by changing your story.
Absolutely.
Right. Cool. And the last question, did you forgive your uncle?
I think forgiveness is a huge thing. I don't know the answer to that is. I don't know, because I don't know what it feels like to forgive. But I've accepted him. I have acknowledged him. I've accepted him. And I have done everything in my power to let others know that he is the person, to protect other people. And not why those, only him. I'll try and protect everyone from every other predator who exists. You know? And I think forgiveness, I've forgiven myself. I don't know if I've forgiven him. I've forgiven myself for thinking that I'm weak. I've forgiven myself for thinking that I have nobody. I've forgiven myself for thinking that the monster in him will make a monster on me. Because you know, Rodrigo, there is only one thing that hate creates. Hate creates more haters. Hate doesn't kill the hated. Right? So I think that's the one you're hating, nothing will happen to the person. But every time you're thinking about hating a person, you are creating a generation of more haters. Right? So I think that's that. And had I not done this, forgiven myself for thinking that I'm weak, I wouldn't have achieved so many things. Now I proudly work as an out gay man in a leading bank. I work with Axis Bank. I work as their diversity head. Just yesterday, there was, when I joined Axis Bank, I brought in a policy where same-sex partners can open bank accounts.
Wow.
And yesterday, because there was nothing that stopped any bank from doing it. We do go through, still there is issues that they go through, but yesterday the government of India reiterated that any two people can open a bank account, queer people can open a bank account. So it's
Huge.
it's a testimony. The truth that you tell the world should be the truth that you tell yourself too. That it is possible. It is possible for you to confront darkness. You can keep confronting it. And it's possible for you to accept the darkness and love the darkness as you would have loved the light. And I think that's a story I told myself. And that changed the outcomes of what happened around me. What happens within you will change the outcome of what happens around you. Okay, and hate only kills the hater. It doesn't kill the hated.
Wow, that was so good. I think I feel very inspired by your story, how you were able to transform whatever happened to you into power. So that was very, very, very powerful. Plus, I feel very grateful that you shared your story with me.
And I'm so grateful that you are asking these stories, because only when it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening, because there are times when I thought that I was only speaking, you weren't speaking at all. But thank you for absorbing, thank you for listening.